Hungry Dads.
Welcome to Hungry Dads, a guided tour through the delicate and often overwhelming balancing act between food indulgences and social acceptance. And now, as always, here are your hosts, Rod Budget and Hugh Gallen.
Hello and welcome to a special Halloween edition of Hungry Dads. I'm Rod the Ripper Budget.
I'm hellish Hugh Gallen.
And Halloween is yet another holiday/social situation where you could absolutely pig out as a kid. But now as an aging hungry dad, there are certain social norms, spouses, and loved ones that prevent you from just getting huge piles of candy and going absolutely nuts on them. So tonight I'm going to give you my Rod Budget very best strategic snacking strategies as they relate to Halloween. These are all potentially viable snacking strategies for the hungry dad, and I'll go from least recommended to most recommended. And Hugh, I'll get your input along the way if that sounds good.
I can't wait to hear them.
So number one, and the least recommended strategy, is skimming off the kids' candy while they're asleep or not looking. First of all, it's immoral. You know, you can try to justify this by saying the kid doesn't need that much candy, but bottom line is it's still stealing. Secondly, as the kid gets older, they're going to be inventorying the candy, either mentally or maybe even with a list. As I was a kid, I think I literally wrote down the Halloween trick-or-treat candy that I had. Not so much for fear of it being stolen, but just excitement. I wanted to see a list of what I had so I could strategize what to eat first, what to save towards the end. And finally, you're not going to get much candy this way. You can't get too aggressive with how much you take off the top, and if you get caught, big trouble from both the kid and the spouse. Hugh, what do you think about the skimming off the top of the kid strategy?
My first reaction is I'm actually a little bit jealous that you actually inventoried your candy as a child. I think that's genius, and I wish I could say I did the same.
Got to inventory.
Maybe because my children are still younger and I don't have the confidence in their ability to keep track. Skimming off the top seems like an okay strategy, and I think, I could almost justify to saying, well, my kids shouldn't be eating that much candy anyway, and I'm bigger, so taking it away from them almost seems like a service. Of course, I'm just justifying and rationalizing at that point. That said, it seems like a pretty ironclad strategy in that, as long as you can stay one step ahead of your kids. As they get older, I agree, this starts to go down.
Yeah, that's a good point. These are all age-related, and I should let our audience know, for those who don't know, my oldest is now 4.5 years old, so she's getting pretty sharp when it comes to candy and food, and it's a big treat for her, and she's definitely, at this age, going to know how much she has and how much she's allowed to have, which I'll get to in a little bit as well. So the second strategy, and also one that I don't think is great, is stealing from a large cauldron or bucket that the neighborhood people leave unattended on their doorstep or porch area. Some people will go trick-or-treating with their kids or just don't want to have the doorbell ring, and they leave an unattended large bucket of candy out, which inevitably is going to be stolen from not really young kids probably, but middle school age, the kids that are on the periphery of being too old to be trick-or-treating. But hey, as a parent accompanying a child, it seems like, hey, there's a lot of candy in front of me. I could take a few extra handfuls. The kid goes up and gets some. If you're careful about it, maybe you can do it while no one's watching. If you're staying behind at your own house to give out candy to the trick-or-treaters, and someone within your proximity has the unattended cauldron, you can perhaps sneak off and get a few handfuls. But again, I think this tactic has a lot of the same problems as the first. It's a little unethical, and if you get caught by the person at the unattended cauldron house, is obviously a big problem. But if you get caught by anyone, a spouse, your kid, someone that just happens to be watching you scooping candy from the cauldron, it's not the best look. What do you think about this one, Hugh?
Oh, I think this one's very high risk. If for no other reason than you're on the street, you're in public, neighbors love to watch, and neighbors love to take stock of things. So I would probably go nowhere near the cauldron. I would potentially, if I was out with my kid, grab one, but this is the kind of thing that could give you a reputation in the neighborhood really fast. I'd stay away from this one.
Yeah, I hear you. I generally think I would stay away from this one, but you have to remember Halloween it's an exciting night. It's a night of mischief. It's a night to step outside your boundaries. It's dark outside, but I do agree with you in general that it's probably too high risk.
This is how weak-willed I am. You just inspired me. I would do it.
Hugh will be reporting back next week from his stolen cauldron.
I only need a nudge, people. I only need the smallest of nudges. I'm in for at least a couple pieces in that scenario.
Number 3, and we're getting more towards, these aren't great, but this one's almost average. This is giving your kid or kids a predetermined cap on the amount of candy that they're allowed to have, and then you obviously get the rest. This is what we're doing this year with our 4-year-old. She gets 15 pieces of candy to choose from. It's like a draft, but she gets the first 15 choices, which is problematic. It's a better solution, but not great. First of all, she's obviously going to take the best 15 pieces. She's very savvy, as I said at this point. She knows what candy's best. She's not going to take the bad stuff. And you're going to be left with the crumbs. The potential solution to that problem, taking the kids to more houses and just trying to win with sheer volume of candy. She gets 15, but there's still going to be an amazing assortment. But then you're walking around longer, you're going to a lot more houses, which I don't really care for. It's a bit of a hassle with kids. And even if the tactic doesn't solve the larger problem, your wife is still looking and limiting the kids' candy intake. And guess what? She's also going to be trying to limit your intake. So in reality, you're getting bad leftovers and a limited amount of them at that. What do you think, Hugh?
Your strategy of getting some off the top there totally works. Obviously, you could have kind of tried to negotiate that number down under a guise of good parenting to give yourself more candy and more options. But I think nobility stepped in here. I do think as a parent, it is for the kids. You said that your wife might limit you as well. Are you saying the balance of the candy would not automatically become yours?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if there are 200 pieces of candy and our child takes 15, the wife is not going to let me just scoop up the remaining 185 pieces.
Where does that candy go if not to you?
That's a good question. It will likely go to the office or, give it to neighbors, or if we're going to a social situation, bring some Halloween candy is just a fun, give out. So we're not going to throw it in the garbage unless it's bad candy, but it'll be given away. So the fourth strategy/tactic, and I think we're getting into average efficiency now. This is sneaking your own candy stash before Halloween. Potentially this isn't a bad solution, but you're limited to how much you can take comfortably. It doesn't really do much for you on Halloween night also, when you want to be pigging out, but this can be a nice supplement to the overall candy strategy, I think. So you have your own stash of Halloween candy that you're going to give out to the kids, and say you get it a week or two beforehand, you slowly kind of pilfer off the top and take a little bit. There's a fear of getting caught, but if you're smart about it and have some self-control, it's pretty safe. What do you think?
The big challenge I see here is how does that bag get opened before Halloween? It's literally a question because we've been talking about buying the Halloween candy, which we haven't done yet, and my wife said, well, let's not get it because we're just going to eat it. And then she quickly said, well, if we don't open it, no one's eating it. So, you can't really get into it unless it's been opened. And my wife, she's got a sonar or a radar for an open bag. And once it's opened, my cover's blown.
This is a great question, and it's something I'm glad you asked because I can relate to and give a real-life example this year in our household. So I bought the Halloween candy, which I'll get to a little bit later, but I bought it 3 weeks ago, approximately. When it was on sale, it first came out. We might as well. We got a good deal. And I immediately placed it on top of the refrigerator. You don't see it every day. It's underneath some other stuff. So it's hard to get to. It's hard to see. And the wife and I have talked about, opening it, trying not to open it, because if it gets opened, we're going to eat it, which I've, hypothetically agreed to. But about 4 nights ago, I went up there. I discreetly opened a bag, the bottom bag, after she was already asleep and I was up at night, and quietly took out a pack of M&Ms. And I've done another pack since then. So I think that's a good point because I've exhibited self-control with 2 packs. It was a discreetly open bag at the bottom of the stack of about 6 bags, and I don't think anybody will know until they listen to this podcast.
Will you be making it your business to create the candy bowl for the Halloween night? Because if you don't, the open bag's going to be discovered very quickly.
I will. I'm usually in charge of the Halloween candy bowl by design, so I hope I will be this year. And if not, I feel like taking only 2 bags of the M&Ms, while I will be scolded somewhat, I feel like I've shown enough restraint that I'm not going to be in huge trouble for that. So number 5, and I think we're getting into the viable recommended strategies now. You're the one in charge of handing out the candy. This may not work out depending on the number of kids you have. You know, you might have to venture out into the neighborhood and take the kid trick-or-treating. But if you can pull off being the lone hander-outer of the treats, this is a pretty sweet setup. So you discreetly pop some candy in between trick-or-treaters. The candy that you've bought for the trick-or-treaters, but now you're alone, nobody's monitoring, you just take out of your own candy bowl and start eating kind of as the trick-or-treaters are coming. Even if you have some while they're coming, the kids aren't going to call you out for eating. The potential exists for running out of candy and being the loser house that runs out too early because you've been eating too much. So that's really the only negative I can see in this one. What do you think, Hugh?
I see one other negative, and it's just the possibility of overindulging. This is it's a time-sensitive opportunity. You're going to feel pressure to strike and to get as much as you can out of it. Especially if you've overbought, which we tend to do, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But you might just be concerned about, okay, this is maybe my big shot, and you overindulge, and to the point where you're not even enjoying the last several pieces you might eat.
I don't know, Hugh. I think Halloween, again, this is a night where I'm not worrying. I'm just shoveling candy in as fast as I can get it in. And I'm hoping that I've convinced you.
I think you've inspired me once again. Again, I'm a soft touch.
So finally, the last recommended snacking strategy for Halloween, and this is the absolutely Rod the Ripper budget recommendation. You've mentioned it already, Hugh, is overbuying. You have to get ahead of the game. You've got to be the one in charge of getting the Halloween candy. You know, just pick some up in mid-October. Like I said, I got ours several weeks ago. It's already out there plenty early in the stores. Say you got a good sale. As a service to the family, you grabbed it at a great bargain. You couldn't pass it up. And here are the advantages. Number 1, you pick the candy that you want. You have the selection. Get your favorite stuff. Number 2, you have the ability to stash away a bag or 2 before Halloween in a hidden location, whether it be under a bed, in the top of a closet, a very safe and secure location where maybe you hide Christmas gifts. The Halloween candy slides right in there nicely in the holiday theme. And third, even if you don't want to stash away a bag, perhaps for fear of being caught, you've bought an absurd amount of candy. Overbuy, as you said. You don't want to be the lame house who runs out of candy, right? If the wife questions it, say, hey, are we going to run out of candy? Are we going to be making enemies in the neighborhood with the kids? They're going to egg our house next year. So I think this is a pretty foolproof method. And as an aside, it might be too late for our listeners this year to employ this, but with Halloween falling on a Friday night, you're going to need to up the candy total anyway. So that's a good excuse for running out last second saying, hey, I don't know if we have enough candy this year. It's Friday night. There's no school tomorrow. There's going to be tons of trick-or-treaters, more than on a usual night. And I think that's a good excuse to go out and get more. If it's too late for you, next year, Saturday night, same situation. Remember this. When you go out to buy that candy, you got to bulk buy, because Friday and Saturday nights, you're going to see a lot more foot traffic. What do you think, Hugh?
That is really good advice. With the weekend Halloweens, I think we have all the reason we need to buy big. And I will say this, and I love candy. I love candy, and I like having lots of extra candy. But I traditionally give away a lot of the candy to the kids because I will defer to the competition on this holiday. The kids are there. They're dressed up. I would rather run out of candy by giving it away than keeping some for myself. So if I see the stash running low, I'm not turning off my porch. I'm welcoming those kids. In fact, I grew up in a house. My mom bought a ton of candy, and every kid didn't get one piece. They got handful. They got 2 or 3 pieces. And I get wrapped up in the moment when those kids come and they're so excited, and I say, go for it, take a bunch. I've had years where I've done that, had no leftovers, and no regrets, because Halloween is a wonderful holiday for the kids, and as much as I love candy, I'm going to prioritize the kids. Okay, folks, we've been saving this one for a while, and since it's our Halloween episode, we thought this was a good opportunity to tell a scary story, and at least a Hungry Dad's scary story. Of course, this frightening tale is entirely fictional. Or is it? There's a very popular and very scary show called The Walking Dead, and I love it. It's really one of my favorite shows. It's one of the only shows I watch. Well, dear listeners, prepare yourself for The Walking Dead.
Okay, here goes. Hello. Hi, honey. Don't panic. I'm here at the kid's doctor, and everything's fine. But Brandon took a little spill.
Oh my God, what happened?
We were coming out of the store to get that oregano you needed. He just slipped out of my arms.
He's a toddler. You have to be careful.
I know. I was carrying all that stuff.
Oh, what stuff? Oh, right, oregano.
Well, I was also drinking a Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew? What are you, in college?
It's just a bump and a little cut on his head.
A cut? What cut him?
A plastic fork.
A plastic fork? Why did you have a plastic fork?
I was also eating a piece of cheesecake.
So you went to the store for oregano and got a piece of cheesecake and a Mountain Dew? And dropped our son because you couldn't wait until you got home?
Well, I wanted to get rid of the containers before I got home. Who loved to go through the garbage like a forensic food detective.
Come home. Directly home. Who is that? Where are you?
There's a taco truck parked in front of the doctor's office. I was just...
You are going on a diet, Buster.
All right, so that is our first foray here on Hungry Dads into a little bit of radio drama for you. And
That was scary.
I would like to thank the Gallen family players for their dramatic reading of this story. Now, let me be clear. This was a fictional tale. It did not happen, but its origin came to me. I was actually walking, holding my infant son, but I was eating as I was walking down the street, actually. This kind of harkens back to the walking and eating. Our son was pretty young, a matter of probably months, and I decided he needed to get out of the house. I decided to take the opportunity to take a walk, and during that walk, I obviously went past a place where I could get something to eat, and what I was actually eating was a strawberry shortcake, like a little Debbie strawberry shortcake, and I'm holding him, and he's a little squirmy, and as I'm eating, I started imagining, what if I dropped him right now? Now, that would obviously be horrible for a number of reasons, but it would beg the question, what was I doing? And I would have to acknowledge that I was eating a little Debbie strawberry shortcake. And I quickly decided I didn't stop eating the shortcake, but I downed it pretty quickly and then put both hands on my kid. And I started playing this scenario out in my head, and I thought, boy, at what risk was I eating this small strawberry shortcake? And again, I think I had a solid grip on him, but if you've ever held a little baby, they can squirm right out.
Yeah, that's pretty complex. Okay, and for our Halloween episode, I've come up with a couple of kind of quick-hitting Halloween-themed quizzes and surveys for tonight. The first one is a segment I'm going to call Halloween Hints, and this is how it works. I'm going to give Hugh some words or phrases that are hints to common Halloween candies. The first clue will be the most obscure, and they will get progressively more blatant until hopefully Hugh gets the answer within the allotted time of approximately 10 seconds. We can't go on forever. If he doesn't get it, I'm just going to cut him off. If you ever watched the old game show Password, that's the basis and inspiration for this segment. And I have 5 questions for Hugh. Are you ready, Hugh?
I am ready.
Number 1. Conic shape. Tricolor. White, orange, yellow. Nebraska candy.
Oh, Rocket
Don't
Pop.
Don't be corny.
Oh, jeez. Oh my God. Candy corn. That was shameful. All right. I had my head on the lollipops.
I love that I threw Hugh for such a
You
loop
did.
there.
You killed me there, and that was a gimme. All right. Let me get my game face on now.
Yeah. Now you know what to expect. Are you ready for question?
I am ready.
Chewy. Don't swallow.
Bubblegum.
Very good.
All
He's
right,
on his
okay,
game now.
okay,
He knows
okay.
what to expect. Question number 3. Elephants.
Peanuts.
Bad,
Candy peanuts.
bad reputation.
Circus peanuts.
That's right, circus peanuts. Hugh is coming back. He's redeeming himself. Number 4. Small and round. M&M's underrated cousin.
Smarties.
E.T.
Reese's Pieces.
There you go. Well done. Well done. Interesting that Smarties are M&M's underrated
No,
cousin.
no,
I
yeah.
like that.
Maybe. Okay.
It's a good insight into your mind.
Well, underrated, I immediately went to Smarties.
Last but not least, are you ready?
Ready.
Bart Simpson.
Butterfinger.
Yes, I knew you would get that on the Bart Simpson. Very good. I know Hugh, and gave him a softball at the end.
That was, you start with any sort of marketing campaign, I'm going to cue right in. All right, good. Feel free to give me a challenge like that from time to time. I think I could get used to this.
And the second segment is more of a survey, which I think will lend itself to some follow-up discussion. So, Hugh, I've got a list of 20 Halloween items that one might get while trick-or-treating. Some of these are a bit more old school from my childhood growing up in the 80s. Some are more new school, and some are just kind of general items that span all generations. For each item, I want you to say trick if you think it's a disappointing item to get, treat if you think it's a good item, and Hungry Dad's Hubba Hubba if you think it's just an amazing, wonderful, eye pop out of your head item. So some other general ground rules. These are all items that I've obtained as a kid or seen obtained, whether it be as a kid or an adult watching a kid get them. Assume the portion size is similar for all these, what you would expect at Halloween, unless it's specifically indicated in the description. And Hugh, this is super rapid fire. If you don't answer within about 2 seconds, I'm moving on to the next one.
Trick, treat, Hungry Dad's Hubba Hubba.
There you go.
I'm ready.
3 pieces of bubble gum.
Trick,
Kit Kat.
treat,
Non-edible vampire teeth.
treat,
Homemade popcorn ball.
treat,
1 pack of Smarties.
trick,
3 packs of Smarties.
trick,
Snickers.
treat,
Nerds in the flavor of your choice.
treat,
Dental floss.
trick,
Caramel apple.
trick,
Regular apple.
terrible trick,
Reese's peanut butter cup.
treat,
$1.
treat,
Garbage Pail Kid cards.
treat,
Skittles.
treat,
1 Jolly Rancher.
trick,
A handful of Jolly Ranchers.
treat,
Payday.
treat,
Hershey's Kiss.
trick,
A spooky plastic spider.
trick.
Okay, that's it. That's all 20.
For a Hubba Hubba, you were going to have to throw in there a full-sized candy bar, as opposed to... I assumed fun sizes on everything. If you'd have said a full-size anything, I would have gone Hubba Hubba for it.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I intentionally did not put full-size anything, because I was curious to see if I would get a Hubba Hubba out of any of these, and I did not, which I think is fair. I think that's good. It's good of you, giving fair statements and not going overboard on anything. A couple of things I found interesting. You were very robust on the Smarties earlier on, but you think 3 packs it's too chintzy?
Yeah, I guess I think that they're underrated, but 3 packs, imagining the weight, there's just not much there. You compare that to 1 fun-sized Snickers, it's still not as hearty or robust. And I can enjoy a Smarties, but, I need a handful of Smarties to really feel like I've gotten away with something.
Yeah, it's not a very filling snack, I'll give you that. Caramel apple as a trick, I'm a little surprised just because it's a big, hearty thing. It's homemade. I personally think caramel is tasty. Apple is a fruit, which I can see as being a bit of a turnoff, but what was your thinking there?
It's mostly fruit. I imagine getting a caramel apple as a kid, and I remember there being a lot of pressure when I decided I wanted to eat it. My parents were very concerned about it being messy. There There was a lot of talk about how I was going to eat it and when I was going to eat it, and my mom wanted to cut it up. It just was stressful. It wasn't enjoyable. And by the time I got through the caramel, my mom was started. I just would get started. I was already being told I was a mess. It was being taken away from me. And I pretty much was getting to apple anyway. So I think overall it sounds better than it really is.
I think that's fair. It's a high maintenance food item for Halloween.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of stress involved, as you said. And you got to think about it. For Halloween candy, I don't want to have to think about it. Hungry Dads! Visit our website at hungrydads.com. Follow us on Twitter at hungry_dads. This has been a Hungry Dads production.
Yeah, I am certain that my daughter has gotten a Dorito crumb shower.
Anniversary presents. Anniversary presents. Anniversary presents.